So at that time when you introduced CCM, did you get pushback from
A lot,
people from the
lot.
classical? What was the reaction from the classical world?
Well, I mean, I think the good news was that I was already outside their world a little bit. Yes, I did start teaching at a small college, like in 19, what, 85 maybe?
Mm.
But I wasn't a college professor. I didn't have a doctorate in education or something.
So
And
you
also,
weren't considered academic, so to
right.
speak.
And I was not somebody who had written a lot of books and papers. I mean, not back then. And so they could only push back on me a little bit because the good news was I didn't no, I was self-employed, and I was relatively successful as being self-employed here in
Hmm.
New York. So what was they going to do to me? Fire me? Well, you can't fire me. I don't work for you.
Yes, don't you love that? What a great
And you can't,
position to be in.
you're going to deny me tenure? I'm not interested in your tenure.
Mm,
Are you going to say bad things about me? Well, so what? How's that going to hurt me?
mm.
I had already established myself in the profession through the organizations that are available because I could talk about what I was talking about in a way that made sense. The other thing that I did, and this is, I mean, I can't validate this, Marissa, but the other thing that I did was I was smart enough to keep my classical singing in good shape. Okay.
Yes, yes. So
So
those
if I,
people could see that you could make those sounds as well. It gave them a little bit of comfort, perhaps.
right, I was still part of that world enough so that if I sang something classically, they wouldn't go, "Ooh, that was disgusting." They would have to go, "Oh, that's pretty good."
Mm.
So things that my Mozart stuff, the light. I finally got to a place where I know I wasn't a big voice. I wasn't supposed to be singing a big material, but Mozart, Scarlatti, Handel, Bach, Mozart, all that was right for my voice. And as long as I stuck to that stuff, I was fine. So that kept going. And then when I went away from it and went da 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 da, they couldn't say, "Oh well, that's okay, but you can't really sing real music because we sing real music." And
Mm.
I kept the classical sound as good as I could, so they couldn't say that about me.
Did you feel
And
that
that
you needed to do that, or was
I
that
did.
just serendipitous?
No, it was very deliberate and necessary.
Mm. Very
And
clever.
I'd asked people, I said, when you came to my course the first time, if I had sounded really bad singing classical literature, would you have paid any attention to anything else I said? And they all said no.
Mm.
So that in a way, I mean, I was being very aggressive. I'm going to cough. Hold on. I was being very aggressive in saying to, like, I'm getting up and I'm going to sing Mozart in a way that you're going to respect. And then I'm going to belt. And then I'm going to sing other styles. I mean, I lived in music theater. That was my whole life. And I didn't say it out loud, but the unspoken implied statement was, okay, can you sing that Mozart better than I just did? Oh, you can't. Hmm. Can you do this other stuff too? Oh, you can't. Hmm.
Mm.
See, so that was my protection in a way.
You know what comes to mind? Let he who is without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And,
yeah.
and it's still true. Even now, I'm 73. I don't sing like I did 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But when I want to demonstrate, I can.
Yes.
And people say to me, how do you keep that going? And it's like, well, I've never done anything in my throat that my throat shouldn't have done. I respected the boundaries and limits of my instrument, but then I was able to get my instrument to make various kinds of sounds in different styles. So it never had to, well, it did in the beginning. I had to I had to overcome a lot of really bad training. where I sounded like I was 60 years old when I was 27. But once I got out of all that, as long as I stayed within the comfort zone of this body, which is right now I'm very heavy because I'm older, but when I was young, I was very small. As long as I didn't try to compete with somebody who was a 400-pound alto,
Yeah.
my throat was okay.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that the colleges were able to trust my coursework because it's grounded in science and because it's grounded in research and because of the experience I had working with and learning from the doctors and the speech pathologists and the voice researchers, but also because when I get up to sing, I can really still sing. And so the proof, I always say the proof is in the singing.
Exactly.
If you're
And
going
I've
to talk
heard
to me
you
about
sing. Yes.
performance and resonance is great. Now sing for me and show me how that works when you sing. And I'm interested in singing honestly. Sing from your heart, sing from your soul, sing something that's meaningful to you. I want to hear your voice expressing your point of view through your mind. Otherwise you're just making sound. And there's a lot of classical training here in the United States, which is about give me the sound, 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 give me the resonance, give me the breath support, give me the sound.
Yes. Yes.
And oh, yeah, you have to express something good. But there's
Yeah.
not a lot of emphasis on, listen, this is a very sad piece. How do you sound? How do you personally sound when you're sad? Now, can you feel that sadness and still sing? Because that should be your goal.
Yes.
So we've all heard really what I would call bad singing. Oh, I'm singing, you're my opera voice. And nobody believes any sound like that because that's not a human being's normal expression. And in the classical world,
CCM audiences would not accept that because it's the complete opposite. We're quite happy to accept imperfections as long in singing, as long as the person is being authentic.
Yes.
And we want to see their heart and their soul. We want to be able to look in their eyes, feel what they're feeling. We want to hear it in their voices. We want it real. We don't care about perfection that legato beauty of tone. We want the real person. We want the real deal.
But it isn't really necessary to, they're not in opposition to each other once you understand what they are. And so you could play two different instruments. You could be good at tennis and also at golf. As long as you understand what the parameters of that particular activity is and you get good at them, you can manage. The stylistic ingredients in each of the CCM styles is particular to that style. So a rock singer is going to ask for different things than a jazz singer of what they're doing vocally, or somebody who's singing country music as it is here in the United States is maybe not going to sound the same as a music theater singer. And that's also a point of contention because up until in the 80s, I guess, when there was research, the first research on belting, the idea that that research said that belting was twang. And here in the United States, the word twang always only referred to the music from country music from Appalachia and the southeast part of the United States. It represented how people spoke in what we would call the hills, mountains. And it had a kind of a banjo quality to it. Whereas belting was really here in New York was more like a trumpet. More like that sound carries. And that was a very different kind of sound. So the word twang was usurped, pulled out of its roots, and applied to something that made no sense, except in worlds where nobody knew any different. Nobody had that history. So when I first heard twang, I thought, oh, country music. And then, no, it wasn't country music. And so you have that unfortunate confusion with some of the terminology
Oh,
and
yes.
other things that people are being taught to maneuver their vocal cords in a certain way, or squeeze this and pull that and lift these. And really the body doesn't like any of that. The
Mm,
body just wants to leave itself alone and sing.
mm,
And then the musical parameters, the acoustic parameters have to work with the style in your own voice. A lot of times with the young kids, they want to belt like they're 50 years old, and I say no, no. If you're 20, sound like you're a 20-year-old belter, not like you're a 90-year-old belter.
yes.
And that particular ingredient, that is classical in the traditional way, in that you only did certain repertoire by the time you grew into it over time. You didn't sing the biggest, most dramatic roles right away. You waited. You let your body and your voice develop over time. That's also true in ballet. You have the young ballerinas that grow up in the ensemble, and they're taking class every day for years and years and years and years until they develop the stamina to do a long leading role like the Swan Queen in Swan Lake. They don't give that role to young women.
Mm,
Why? Because you don't have the stamina. And so there are elements of, I guess, vocal wisdom that can be taken from traditional classical singing and applied to contemporary commercial music styles when we're dealing with who is this voice, who is this body, who is this instrument, and then what can we get this instrument to do in a way that's authentic and healthy. So that's how the somatic voice work got born. And at the end of that first course in 2002, I got to the last hour of the fifth day, and I got all 60 people gave me a standing ovation.
that's
And I just stood
incredible.
there crying my eyes out
Oh,
because I thought, oh gosh, I guess they understood what I was talking about.
so
And
it
I
was a
didn't,
moment. It was a moment for you that all those years, all that learning, all that work that you'd done, having electrodes poking out of your neck, all that, you had been validated.
yeah. And when I, um, the 1999 was the first year that I did research that I presented at the Voice Foundation, like you did when you did yours.
Yes.
And that also was the first year that I did a workshop. And so I was allowed to sing at the gala. So this formal gala with all the voice
I
scientists
yes, I've
and the
been there.
doctors, and then they always have a famous opera singer there.
I
This
yes.
that first year, the person who was the famous opera singer was a woman whose name was Lucia Albanese, who had a huge career in Italy and the United States in the 40s and 50s and early 60s. And she was the guest of honor. So I got up, and the first thing I sang was the Mozart aria from Magic Flute, Pamina's aria Ach ich fühl's. And then when that was over, I sang Love Potion number 9.
Oh my, I love that.
And I was thin then, I was still thin. And I came out in a very elegant looking outfit, and I did, oh, so I did the whole thing. And when I finished the last note, Madame Albanese said in a loud voice, Brava! I thought, oh my
She didn't
God.
throw olive oil and tomatoes at you.
I was floored.
Yes.
And then I really did feel like, okay, I have been exonerated here.
Mm, mm.
She did not have to say a peep. And it was really that last note dying away and then this loud brava before anybody could applaud. And so I was recovering from this. But then I turned around, and I had prepared ahead of time a little podium, kind of like a speaker's podium. And I took my outer fancy garment. It was like a vest, long vest. I took it off, I put it on the podium, and I reached under and I got a black leather vest. and a black leather um, a newsboy cap. And
Yes.
I did that very quickly. This change, I went out of the classical into this. I had on a
Mm.
black, skin tight black jumpsuit. So this thing went over me, and I turned to the guy in the corner who was the electronics guy, and I nodded. And it was like, bah, bah, bah. I took my troubles down to Madam Ruth. And the whole room was like,
Oh, that's unheard of in that context. Because I've been to those gala dinners, and they're full of pomp and ceremony,
yep.
and
So when it was,
everyone's watching P's and Q's, and everyone's
yeah,
so formal. Oh my goodness, yes,
when it was over, they were all very stunned. And I was so nervous before I sang.
of course,
I don't even have the words to say, because I thought, boy, if I don't pull this off, if I don't make the classical piece impeccable, and then I don't sing this rock and roll thing like I really sing in rock and roll, I am going to fall flat on my face in front of all these
absolutely,
people.
yes.
And then the following year, I did research and I sang again. I was still very svelte. I had on a skin tight red dress, and I sang the Silver Dollar aria from the Ballad of Baby Doe, which goes up to a high C sharp, C sharp 6 at the end. And then I turned around and sang Under the Sea, Under the Sea. And I did a little mambo while I was doing it. And when it was over, the guest of honor that year was the American baritone, classical baritone from the Met, Cheryl Milnes. And he came over and he said to me, where are you singing? And I said, in my kitchen. And he said, no, I mean, where are you singing? Where are you performing? I said, in my kitchen. He said, I'm not singing anywhere. And he said, well, you should be. And I said, oh, thank you. I can't believe Cheryl Milnes asked me where I'm singing.
But you did it.
Yeah, but see, this was all the stuff that came. I was already, I was 50 then. So this all came after a long, long time. And the complexion of the profession at that time was still very much, you can either sing classical music or you can ruin your voice and sing that other stuff. And I was going to show them, no, that's not true.
And you did.
And so it meant a lot to me to sort of say that's just it's a wrong thought. You got to break that thought. And then after that, in 2006, there was a panel on contemporary commercial music at the Voice Foundation, which was hugely successful. And then it became more acceptable to start to do research on different kinds of singing, different kinds of styles. So now, if you look at the roster of the symposium, they have presentations on singing styles from India. They have Catalan music from Spain. They have all different kinds of versions of music theater.
Yes.
There's been presentations on rock music. But prior to what I did, that you would never have seen that. Never.
Well, you certainly paved the way then. That was incredible. That took courage, but the more you talk, the word resilient and tenacious keeps coming to mind. I think they're the two qualities, and I think part of that is probably the Italian heritage too.
Well, I am an Aries, and I have I have 4 planets in the North Node in Aries. So I am, the song, once there was a little old ram, thought she'd punch a hole in the dam. No one could make the ram scram. She kept butting that dam. And that was the Frank Sinatra song in the 50s and 60s. And it's called High Hopes. And it's talking about, the ram, this is never given up. And that is the persistence. And I have to say, Marissa, in all honesty, it was fueled by my anger. People used to say to me, gosh, you seem so angry. I said, I am. I'm very angry. You would be too. If you were spoken to like, oh, you want to sing that music? Well, that's not music. Who wants to sing that stuff?
Mm.
And that's why when I was in Australia the first time, which was in like 1994,
Really, that
I
early?
yeah, because Janice like brought me over there for two conferences, singing Broadway and popular music in '94 and '96 to Sydney, and that was my first encounter with Australian uh, training. And I thought then, and I still felt the same when I was there, like in 2019, that the Australians were much more open minded,
Yes,
much more willing to just look at singing as singing. I think a lot of that was Irene's influence.
definitely.
I think that Irene's also her bravery, her courage, and her tenacity was that she was talking about singing is singing. Singers are singers. Doesn't matter. And so that attitude, when I got there, was like, wow, this is
Mm.
different. I mean,
Mm.
didn't get as much of that. Well, I'm a classical singer. Well, what are you?
Yes,
Who are you?
yes.
And I came back and I talked about that here, and I said, when I was in um, hmm, Adele Nisbet's class,
Yes, Adele's, yes.
I did a lecture in her pedagogy class, and here was this pedagogy class, and there were jazz singers and pop singers and classical singers all in the same class.
I did that
And I
class.
said, you don't, this doesn't happen in America. You don't get the classical people mixed in with the other people as peers. That's
Mm.
not happening.
Mm.
And Adele said, yeah, well, that's just how we are here. So I came back here and I said, you people could learn something from the Australians. They have it together. And they looked at me like, whoa, who cares? We don't want to be like Australia. And I thought,
Yes. I know exactly. I didn't even know that there was this high art, low art mentality till I started attending a conservatorium. We call them a conservatorium here. And then when I went to these voice conferences and then reading some of the Facebook group forums that I didn't realize it was such a thing because
mm,
I had a very long and successful career as a
right.
CCM singer,
Yep.
and I couldn't understand why one they had these programs where these people didn't have a hope in hell of getting a job after they finished a program. They were
Right.
not going to be employable,
Right.
and this music is what sells.
Yeah, I
Classical
know.
music only constitutes 1% of music consumption,
Yep.
and all the other styles are 99%. So, where is this mentality coming from? Like, what is wrong
Well,
with
I
people?
I know a man, very nice man, very highly respected as a teacher or pedagogue in one of our big universities, has done lots of research, very, very high level research. Great man, wonderful guy, can't sing, has a reputation for being a terrible singer. And I once had a discussion with him in which he said, well, I consider it's my job to educate my students about the fine art of singing. And I said, but what about if you want to help them get a job? Well, he said, I don't concern myself with that. I said, well,
Oh,
because
imagine.
these kids are spending
Yeah,
thousands of dollars and they want
yes,
to be singers, and you don't care if they get a job. I
but
just thought that was the
that's
craziest thing
ridiculous.
I ever
It
heard.
is because imagine doing a law degree and thinking, well, I won't have a job at the end of it. What?
Right.
You're still attending a university, you're still paying all the fees, you're still going there for the training for a job. So
Right.
it makes no sense. Now,
Well, they
we
look at job training as being beneath them. It's
mm,
an applied degree. Yes, you have a degree in voice. It's an applied degree. But oh, why would you want to work? I mean, that's so below you. You want to be an
oh.
academic.
So what do you do?
And
Go and work at McDonald's?
yeah, I guess. I mean, it's very strange as an attitude to talk to somebody who thinks that way. Now, I
Mm,
have to say, this particular teacher does have students who are professional singers who are out in the world, they're working, but it was like not part of his job as a college faculty to address whether or not their students could work if they want. And of course, if they don't want to work, they want to become academic. All right, that's fine.
That's
There's
fine.
nothing wrong with that. But not because they can't work, because you didn't prepare them for the real world where work happens. And that mattered to me. I wanted my method to be applicable in a very practical way.
Sorry. Has that come up on your screen?
What? No, I don't see anything.
Sorry.
I,
Okay, something just popped up on my screen, just randomly.
oh.
Okay,
No.
we're back. And
Well,
we're
anyway, so my goal is I'm not teaching privately right now, partly because I stopped during the COVID quarantine, but also because I have had health issues myself, which have impeded my ability to get around, mobile.
Yes.
So I've now switched over to webinars. I'm doing webinars, and we did our very first ever podcast. I don't think they've even been released yet. And then I do my summer institute. So I do the Somatic Voicework Institute in July. We have it for the third year in a row online only, which was the college administration's decision.
Yes.
So we won't be on campus. The college campus is very lovely. It's a small college on the outskirts of Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm sorry, Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes.
Cleveland. And we probably will be back in person next year. But this has been very successful because since we're online, you don't have to fly to the United States. You don't have to stay in a hotel. You don't have to pay for transportation on campus. And it's afforded a lot of people who would never be able to participate without paying for anything except the tuition.
Except that.
And so we attracted people from all over the planet. And the atmosphere is very loving. Like, we have a lot of fun and people share, and there's a lot of welcoming. The young people learn from the older people learn from the young people. And it's a way for us to learn and share. I mean, that was one of the great things about when I finally was in Australia. I was teaching up in Toowoomba, and Irene came in and did a guest session, and here's a woman who has given so much to the profession and is so kind, so down to earth, so absolutely available.
Yes, she is.
She has her doctorate. She's at the conservatorium, but man, she just sing it. And I loved having that interaction with her because that's how it ought to be.
Exactly. I think we can be less territorial in our community and less ego. And you have an amazing faculty as well. I see your training program has grown, and it's inclusive of many things now. It's not just you, which, I mean, you did a great job in pioneering all of that and establishing it. But now you have other teachers that are coming on board.
Yeah. It was important for me to share the work with other people so that anyone's interested can realize, well, gee, gosh, I'll never be like Jeanie. I can never do what Jeanie does. And the idea is, no, you can't be me. You have to be you. But you can learn the same skills that I learned along the way without spending 40 years to collect them.
Yes.
Let me shorten your journey a little bit.
Yes.
And so we do have a medical lecture and a speech pathology lecture, and we have experts from jazz and music theater, and we have a movement specialist. And this puts everything in one place. And then the faculty is all over the map. So we have the people who teach in grade school. We have college teachers. We have choral director people. Jeff is our rock and roll guy.
Is that Jeff Costello?
Yeah, Jeff
I
Costello.
see him. Yeah, yes, I see him on Facebook.
So we have people with different backgrounds,
Yeah.
and
And
that makes,
Trinice is one of your,
yes, and
yeah.
Trinice is our gospel and R&B blues person. Um, and we've been very strongly supportive of Black Lives Matter and of the LGBT plus community. We really are working to be as inclusive and as respectful of everybody that we can. And I really feel very blessed with this faculty. I mean, they're amazing.
Mm,
And people
they
say
are.
to me, where did you get this faculty from? And I said, I didn't. They picked me. I didn't go out and look for them. They showed up, and then here they are. So as the community has grown and the work has grown, the kind of person who's attracted to the work is somebody who is open-minded, flexible, wants to keep learning, wants to share. I mean, people like you and people like your colleagues that I've met, like Melissa
Yes,
Forbes.
Melissa. Yes.
Melissa Forbes is one of those open-minded people,
Yes, she is.
and that that is the kind of person that's attracted to the work.
Mm.
I don't get very many people who are like, well, I don't want to teach that. Good. Go find something.
Go find go and annoy somebody else. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's worked out. It's worked out well, and I don't really know, 10 or 15 years from now when I'm probably no longer on the planet, I don't know where it's going to go, but I feel like kind of like I'm putting it out into the world and it'll go wherever it needs to go. And I mean, it's the same with what you're doing with your broadcasts, with interviewing different people in different areas. Just the fact that you're doing that puts it out into the world, makes it easier for the younger people to come in and not have the same struggles that you had, because you had struggles too.
Yes. Yes, I did. I was definitely made to feel an imposter within the academic world, but that's okay. That's fine. We've all moved on now. We've all moved on. I have my book. I have a book now. So, some of those people that made me feel like an imposter don't even have a book.
That's right.
Yes. So I'd like to kind of start wrapping this up, only because you've given so much of your time, and I have like literally so many questions for you, but I just want to ask a few more.
Okay.
So how much has, we talked about voice science before. How much has that informed your teaching approaches, and how important do you think that is to our training?
I would say that it informed my teaching a lot. It was very important for me when I worked with Dr. Sundberg to know that what I had developed on my own was what I had developed on my own. So in other words, that I knew that what I felt and experienced was what I felt and experienced.
Yeah.
I had an objective evaluation, both in terms of seeing it with the scope and understanding the analysis on the piece of paper, which gave me enormous confidence. And I think that that keeps the process grounded in reality. So it's very important. Then the application when we're working is, do we want to teach voice science as pedagogy? No. Do you really need to know that this is, your second formant is higher than your first formant? In my opinion, no. It's great if you can find that. You go on a machine and it tells you that. But unless we're going to carry the machine around with us all the time, we have to go by our own personal experiences. And so you learn to sing better by singing. And
exactly.
In the same way that I read all the traditional vocal pedagogy from all the well-known experts, classical, going all the way back to Garcia and Lamperti, all the way up to present moment, Warren Brown, and people who have been highly respected in the pedagogical community for decades. But all of that information was aimed at classical singing. So does that inform what who I am? Yes. Does it inform my teaching? Yes. But then the rest of it, the information that I gathered while singing gospel music with the Broadway people and singing jazz with other people or whatever else I turned up, also informed what I'm doing. So I understood that in working with somebody, and also I did a lot of work on my body, Alexander technique and Feldenkrais and different kinds of yoga and massage therapy and different kinds of physical movement systems, dancing of
Mm-hmm.
all different kinds. So I
Wow.
was always learning about my body as my body was getting older and changing. It's like, oh, I didn't used to be able to do that, and now I can. Or, gee, I used to be able to do that, and now I can't.
Yes.
Staying informed about the somatic process as you go through your life, you can't ever run out of that because your body's always going to help you either be a good singer or not.
Mm.
So now
Well,
as I'm
it is
older,
our instrument.
yeah,
After all, people forget that. They think it's from
I'm
here up.
I know I'm having to adapt to having a senior citizen body and recognize, can't do that anymore. Okay, okay, at least I know that. And so that's another key component of the application, which is, are you going to work with somebody who's maybe a really great singer but who just had a baby and is now finally coming back and their whole body's in a disarray? How does that work? You have to find out where they are then. And same thing with working with somebody who's a dancer, could be different than working with somebody who is a librarian. Maybe they equally gifted vocally and musically,
Mm,
but how does that body work when it comes
mm,
to singing?
yeah.
Some
And
people who are very physically fit are not very physically fit when it put that same kind of behavior towards singing,
yes, exactly.
right?
Exactly. And also too, how body aware, the difference between how body aware a dancer is as opposed to a librarian.
Yeah.
And so you said that you've studied so many different things. What is one thing that you feel like, oh, I really want to go and study that, either because I haven't studied it yet or I want to learn more about it? Is there something that piques your interest right now?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Um, I guess if I had a magic wand
Yes.
and I could poof and turn into some magic place, I would love to go back and take more acting lessons. I haven't taken acting lessons since I was in my 20s. I'd like to see who I would be as an actor now at this point in my life, and really just explore, what kinds of characters could I play, and maybe sing also,
Mm-hmm.
maybe as a music theater performer, but as an older person,
Mm-hmm.
and just take different kinds of acting classes. Like, I know I
Yes.
studied a few different techniques, but not extensively. And I think that would be, I also would like to take training in how to do voiceovers, like how to use your voice for commercials or in a film,
Mm-hmm.
but not
Yes.
necessarily be on camera. That
Yes.
that would pull me. I'd be like, oh, let's go look at that.
You would be very good at that. I love listening to your voice, and I love the way it moves through so many different pitch changes.
It
And
goes
once
all over.
again, I have to say that's the Italian too, because
Yep.
we are
Yep.
very expressive. And but when you put on your English accent, it doesn't really move very much in pitch range at all. So
No.
that cultural difference is evident,
Yep.
100%. And
Yes.
you said too you've had some health issues. So,
Mhm.
and you are a really busy person. You're still doing so much. Your career is never ending. What do you do for you? And what do you do for self-care?
Well, what I had been doing was I go for regular chiropractic adjustments,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to go for fairly regular massages.
Yes.
My husband and I are avocational ballroom dancers, So we used to love doing that. All of that got squashed when COVID happened.
Yes.
And then I had hip replacement surgery in August of 2020. And unfortunately, the surgeon screwed up.
Oh,
So I didn't really fully recover. And I have gone all over the place trying to get a better result from other doctors. But nobody seemed, the consensus seems to be I'm stuck with what I have. So my ability to get around is quite compromised. And so, in terms of self care, right now, what I'm trying to do is adapt to the limitations that I have and try to take care of myself. So, okay,
yes. Wow.
I have to walk with a
Mm.
cane. Okay, so now I have to
Yes.
go to make sure I go slowly when I go up the stairs or go down the stairs. And that actually takes a lot of awareness. The
Mm.
other thing I try to do at least a little bit is vocalize. Oh, la, 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 la. I try to keep the instrument alive because it makes me feel good. And I also feel like if I'm going to demonstrate, I want to know that it have a half a chance of having it come out the way I'd like.
Yes.
It's almost 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with a small spot on my left vocal fold that doesn't work right. And it was probably caused by a vocal fold hemorrhage that was generated out of very severe bronchitis. And I was coughing and coughing, and I did everything. I couldn't have handled it with more holistic and Western medicine, and I still couldn't really not cough. So I broke a blood vessel on one of the vocal folds, and probably that has contributed to this one spot that doesn't vibrate properly in my middle range.
Right.
So I had to adapt to that as well. And the theater music that I lived in all my life, which was my heart and soul, a lot of it is completely unsingable now. I cannot sing it. And that's heartbreaking, but I can manage with other styles, and I can manage if I don't push on myself too much. So that's also something that would be the self-care element of, okay, I can't do what I can't do. Now let's find out what I can do. And that's an attitude that I have about teaching also, is I always try to tell the teachers that are working with me, find what the student can do first. Find out what they can do. And if you start with, even with beginners, find out can they go louder? Can they go softer? Can they speed up? Just with your speaking voice.
Yes.
Can they go up a little or down a little? And then from that, coax something new, coax something different. Sometimes if you ask somebody just to slow down, they don't know how to do that. Because in speech, we hardly ever have a reason to talk very slowly. But that's closer to singing, right? So I always try to get them to look at glass half full first. And then if they're going to make a change, to look at it as accommodating the capacity that the person has while you introduce new behavior, rather than fixing something that's wrong. Because already that's a bad attitude to begin with.
Yes.
You've given the attitude the person's not adequate because something's wrong and you have to fix it. No, take a look at, okay, well, your throat's not too cooperative over there. Maybe we can make it easier for your throat. Let's do this. So that you introduce something which unconsciously supports the fact that when you go back to the activity, the student goes, oh, now I can do it better. I said, oh, how about that?
I bet you wished you had those teachers.
I did.
Because you had the opposite of all of that. Everything you just said was the total opposite of the type of training that you received. So do you believe that is probably the number one quality that a good teacher needs to possess?
Yeah, I mean, I used to come out of singing lessons and go into the hallway and cry.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's a good lesson.
And it wasn't because I was trying with my whole being to do what the teacher said. And I was trying so hard to really be a good singer. And then I was criticized and put down and compared to other people. And I was just so sensitive when I was singing. And I really vowed, if I ever teach, I'm never going to teach like that.
Mm. Mm.
I'm never going to put
Yeah.
somebody down because they're not good enough. Although I have to be honest with people and say, you know what? Your chest register is asleep today. Can we wake it up?
But that's a kind way of approaching it. It's not like saying, your chest register sucks. Don't
Right.
ever,
Right.
what are you doing? What are you thinking? And
Yeah.
shaming. Yeah.
No, I just absolutely, that's a very important aspect of the work, which is to find a way to speak, always be honest
Mm.
and say what you see, say what you hear. So the student comes in and you think, jaw is so tight today. I would say, hey, what'd you do over the weekend? Your jaw doesn't want to let go.
Mm.
Oh, I had a fight with my boyfriend.
Yes, yes,
I say, well,
yes.
all right, let's massage it. Let's talk to your jaw. Come on, let's do this. And
Mm.
then the person gets to see, oh, okay, something happened, but I can address that. Not like, why are you having these jaw problems? This is terrible. You have to speak, you can't sing like that. Ugh.
Mm. So, in all these years, your brilliant career, and you've done so much, you've achieved so much. What do you think will be your legacy?
Mm. I guess what I would like to say that my legacy would be that I was helpful.
Oh, definitely.
That's all.
That
Just
yes, that definitely. And I would say every time someone hears the term CCM, that term is linked directly back to you. And I know when every time I do a voice conference, whether people know it or not, and I'm sure they all know, I always say this is where it's come from. And
well, thank
Jeanette,
you. That's very
yeah,
sweet.
every
I
single presentation, I credit it to you and the why.
thank you. My understanding at that time was that if I made it be about me, nobody would adopt the term. That it was very important that it not be associated with me, so that people could not know I created it. Sort of like the word vocology that Dr. Titsa created.
Mm,
You know, it's not Ingo Titsa's vocology; it's just vocology.
mm.
And somatic voice work, yes, the LoVetri method, but people just talk about somatic voice work because it's universal. It's anybody working with somatic voice work or anybody talking about CCM. And so when I think, well, what would I like my legacy to be? I would like my legacy to be that I was helpful, that I served a higher good, and that I did it in as with an attitude of uh, I guess, gratitude,
Mm.
that I was able to finally give back in a way that maybe I thought was missing. Something
Yes,
was a hole
yes,
there.
yes, yes. No, I
And
totally get that. I totally get that because, and service is really important and giving back because that's what we need to do. If we've had a brilliant career and people have been kind to us, we need to also repay that favor to the community, and that's what
well,
keeps it moving forward.
yes,
So important to be of service. And people worry about the money, but the money will come and you don't do it from that place. You have to do it from a
right.
place of giving, and the money will follow if you do it from the right
Yes.
place.
Yeah, you have to look at everybody who's ever done anything of value has had to sacrifice to
Mm.
get there. And then they have the opportunity to give back. And so, I mean, I would never have imagined that my life and my career was going to go where it went. To me, it looks like,
Yes, yes.
but having the opportunity now to look this way when there's many more years behind me, then I'm not going to have another 73 years going forward. You can look back and say, well, maybe things are a little different now than they would have been if I hadn't been where I am.
Mm, mm,
And more than that, I don't think you can ask, you know.
exactly. Yep.
Um,
Yes.
I'm supposed to write a book. I have a book contract with Compton, but I got interrupted first with my hip and then with COVID. But hopefully, I would also say my legacy will be my book if I ever get it done.
Mm,
You know,
yes.
we'll
Well,
see.
that's amazing. Well, Noel be a very lucky man to have you as an author that's
Well,
published
he's
through
been
his.
very patient. I had to write to him and say, I'm really sorry, but I can't provide this book because blah 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 blah.
Mm,
And he's
mm,
been very generous and
yes.
understanding. But it's still
Yes.
on my agenda. I'm still
Good
gonna.
on you. Good on you. So, in
And
winding up,
yes,
okay, I'm going to ask you three more questions and that's
okay,
it. I promise. So,
all
what are
right.
you up to next? So, there's the book.
Well, now what the next thing is that's really immediate is the webinars that I start with on Monday. I have 4 free webinars. Then after that is the Institute, which is in July. It's 9 days in July.
What
And
dates?
it starts on the 9th, July 9th to July 17th.
And people can still book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
the website is uh, on the college website.
Yes. And
So
I'll
it's
share the links. I'll share the links in the show notes. Yep. I
www.bw.edu/livet.
I will share all your links, Jeanie, in my
Okay.
show notes.
And then after that, I don't have any specific plans, but I have. Well, a lot depends on how I do if I have to travel. I don't know what my hip will
Are
let me
you
do.
going to ICVT?
No, I'm going to go to the Voice
Oh.
Foundation in Philadelphia just to see
Mm-hmm.
how I do,
Mm-hmm.
because that's only 2 hours away by car.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I will be in a plane traveling a long distance because generally speaking, a few hours and then I really have to move around.
Yes.
And then, um, so I have my student Moran in Israel waiting for me to come to Israel. And the Brazilians would like me to come back to Brazil. So I don't know. Right now, I don't have anything beyond the Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll
So
see how I do.
one foot forward at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And so you, with all your wisdom, what is the greatest piece of advice you would like to offer our singing voice community? Like something we could do better or something that you strongly
No,
believe
I,
in?
I would say to you, the thing that we all have to remember is both the Hindu scriptures and the Christian Bible say, in the beginning was the word, or in the beginning was the sound. And science tells us we started with the Big Bang. So that we must remember that our sound is our spirit in our body. Your voice, the vibration of your voice, is your soul made manifest as sound. So when you are true to your voice and true to your word, that is to say, you tell the truth, then you are speaking from the most empowering point of view that exists. And when you speak, knowing that, you know that you are speaking from a loving truth, you are creating reality. That is this essence. Everything in the universe is a vibration, a particle or a wave. So when you speak and you say anything, it could be something like, that was a great lesson. That energy of that sound coming from you straight through and in your own voice, in your own body, comfortably and happily, literally creates a reality for the other person to go, oh, that was a great lesson. And that's the essence of this work. The essence of this work is to find your voice, raise your voice, share your voice, cherish your voice, and basically tell the truth in each moment as yourself. That's all you can ask. And it doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you never trip up and say something stupid or lie or whatever. We all do those things. But when your intention is to be of service and you're impeccable with your word and your sound, you're operating at the essence of creativity in the whole universe. More than that, you cannot do.
Wow. That is absolutely beautiful. And it is so in line with the messaging behind my podcast.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautifully said. Wow, wow, wow. So powerful and so true.
Well,
Well,
that is why musician and magician come from the same source in English. And those of us that are working with music are working with magic. And so when we're working with sound and we're working with music and voice, that is the essence of all that is in the world. And if we hold it that way, regard it in a kind of a sacredness, that's as much as you can ask.
beautiful. Well, Jeanie, I'm going to let you go. You've been
Yes, thank you.
so
I gotta feed my
kind.
husband.
Oh, Jerry, poor, oh, we can't let him go hungry. Oh my goodness. If he's like my husband, he'd be roaring like a wounded bull right now.
Well, I think he might be just taking a nap. I'm not sure. But
Oh
anyway,
my
it's time
gosh.
for us to eat.
No, thank
Thank
you
you for
so
this.
much. Much love to you. And I hope to see you in person sometime soon.
Yes, that would
And
be
we'll
wonderful.
share all your information, especially
Thank
to
you.
the Institute, in the show
Yep.
notes. Okay,
Thank you,
thank
dear.
you, Jeanie.
Mwah.
Good night.
Lots of love.
Lots of love
Bye.
to you. Bye.